तेरा मेरा अफसाना पूरा हुआ ना जाना हूँ मैं बंद कमरे विच कल्ला फिर भी दिसदा है परेशान सारे पुछदे ने मैनू क्यों मैं गल्लां नहीं करदा किन्ने सोहणे ने चेहरे ते दिल क्यों नहीं है भरदा मेरा तेरे बिना ये सारे नशे बेकार तेरी आंखों के सिवा कर नहीं जाता मैं बाहर रहता तेरा इंतजार मेरे ख्वाबों में आना करके सोला सिंगार सोया यूं तेरा शर्माना मेरी जान ना ले ले कान के पीछे जुल्फ छुपाना मेरी जान क्या कहने ये लोग हैं जालिम बड़े इनमें जफा देखी है ये दुनिया तेरी नहीं मैंने तुझ में वजह देखी है
There's something in the water I feel it taking over me It's slowly getting harder to breathe, to breathe, to breathe To breathe, to breathe
You're the poison on my lips I knew it, yet I still took this sip Your eyes an endless, bottomless deep I fall into them and it feels so easy to sink
There's something in the water I feel it taking over me It's slowly getting harder to breathe, to breathe, to breathe feel it taking over me. It's slowly getting harder.
There's something in the water.
I step into our room, set on fire. The drums in my chest fill the silence. I break the walls and end all denial. They know when she feels the rhythm, they know what they're about to witness. I know when my eyes cut deeper.
Alrighty, good morning friends, we are back. It's been a minute. It's been 2 months, I think, since my last stream, but ain't shit changed. I'm not gonna lie, I think we're at the exact same price we were 2 months ago on my last stream. So we'll start off like we always do, cover high time frame, give some plans for the days and weeks ahead, maybe cover some altcoins, and then as always, the floor is open to you guys. You know, any questions you guys may have, anything you want me to cover, feel free to throw it in. If you guys want me to look at altcoins, do me a favor and maybe save it for, 30-40 minutes from now. I'm probably gonna leave those till a little bit later. I will say though, this is probably the first time in, let's see, 2 years. Yeah, first time in 2 years I've really cared about altcoins. Maybe 18 months, right? Q3, Q4, 2024 accounts. So we'll call it 18 months. But if you guys watch my streams in 2025, you'll know that I wasn't super amped on alts that year. And now with things being down 90%, I think, price and opportunity is once again in our favor. And as you guys saw from the stream title, I don't think time is in our favor. And I'll discuss all of that in a few minutes. But yeah, How are you guys been? Let me take a look at chat and, you know, hopefully see some familiar faces that I haven't seen in some time. Hope you guys are doing well and surviving and, in fact, thriving out there. One of the oldest kind of docisms maybe is talking about those of you guys that put in the effort during bad times are going to see the most type of success in the good times. So just scrolling through chat, I'm happy to see some familiar faces, you know, that have stuck it out through the bad. I'm not even gonna hit you guys with the like the stream, follow the stream shit. I really don't care. I'm just happy you guys are here. And I think I said on my last stream too, you know, when it comes to public streams nowadays, I just want to do them when I feel like doing them, you know? I don't want to feel like it's a chore that I have to do every single week. So I apologize. You know, I have seen a lot of comments, which is actually really nice on Twitter. That's like, oh, Doc, when next stream? And I read stuff like that, and it does motivate me to want to come back and stream again, you know, if there's demand for it and stuff. But yeah, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Long in the fraudulent New York dump. I think location is solid. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Better location, just a bit lower. I think there's a 4-hour trend break. We'll talk about all this in a few minutes. Cover the landscape of things. It's been a while, so try not to fuck up with the window capturing. Hey man, I still stream every week in Paragon, so we're not rusty on the streaming. We're rusty on the public side of streaming, but I will 100% mess up the window swapping at some point. 100%. I just realized how loud the background music was. Apologies, already the first mistake of the stream. Let me know if that's okay, otherwise I can turn it down lower. What up? There's some that tune in for the company but never write anything in chat as well. Yeah, we love and appreciate you guys as well, man. Shout out to you guys. You don't need a, you know, if you don't have any questions, there's no harm in just, you know, hanging out. You don't really have to type anything. When I watch, I go on like Twitch a little bit to watch like gamers play. I'm not active in chat. I'm just there to watch the gameplay, you know? Living off the grid, brother. I haven't seen you in a bit. Hope you're well. Maybe I'm gay. No, nothing gay about that, dude. Missed you too. All right, got my coffee. Let's settle in. Let's talk Bitcoin. All right, so we are 8 months in since the top. Excuse me, maybe 10 months in? Let me double check. 308 days since the top. So yes, we are 10 months deep. And I want to say straight up, you know, maybe I'm jinxing it by saying this, but I've been saying it quite a bit, so I don't really care. This is the most Mickey Mouse Clubhouse bear market ever. If you guys traded last cycle, you were used to your alts going to zero periodically anyways. Altcoins had massive corrections, capitulations in summer of 2024 before the Bitcoin rally to 100K. Altcoins had they pretty much started their bear markets in 2024 November, December, right? A lot of them topped out in summer. Some of them topped out November, December, didn't make all-time highs in 2025. And we kind of just did that again. Yeah, more severely, you know. We know 1010 whipped some alts to zero, like Atom and stuff like that. We know alts are down 90-95% across the board. But I feel like, once again, if you guys were participating in this past cycle, you'd seen alts do that a few times before. 80% down, you know, in summer of 2024, 80% down, and, you know, during the tariffs and stuff like that. So it's not that crazy. So bringing it to bear market, you know, standards, talking about 2022, for example, or even before when I wasn't around before then. You know, I really think this is probably the easiest bear market of all time. So am I jinxing it by saying that? I mean, I hope not. I'm just trying to call it as I see it. Okay, so now where does that bring Bitcoin into the picture? I think the most important level, which everyone and their grandmother can see, right? You show someone markets for 5 days or less even, right? I'm sure they could come and draw this horizontal line on here, right? They can draw this monthly horizontal, which by the way is something that I was actually using summer of 2024, just monitoring the monthly closes above 58K. 58K from the 2021 cycle was met for selling. Everything above 58K was spot distribution and selling. Everything below 58K was a ravenous spot buying in summer of 2024. We're back at that level once again. Most consensus level in the market, something that we've been trading around now for 6 months straight. The EMAs are still pointed down. The weekly trend is still pointed down. Price action is still pointed down, right? We're still making lower low and a lower low and a microscopic lower low, but nonetheless a lower low, right? So structure is still bearish, trends are still bearish, but can we ascertain or maybe read between the lines any type of momentum loss? And I think that's fair to say. Something that I've been talking about a little bit is the high time frame to me doesn't feel as bearish as it should, right? I think, using prior cycles, which, it's just a speculative thing, but prior cycles, 10 months into the bear market is pretty much where your accumulation range starts. A lot of people I think will likely point out, hey, but Doc, in 2018, Bitcoin did this sideways chop around whatever it was, 6K maybe, and then had a devastating collapse, right? What if we're just doing that? What if we're just sitting here forever and then we have an absolute nuke fest? I think that's totally possible, but let's temper our expectations for downside, right? What I mean by that is Bitcoin is no longer an asset that just nukes 40, 50% out of the blue. Think of like the most bearish things that we've experienced the past 5 years. None of them have really been the most devastating pukes. Let's talk about FTX. Right, FTX single candle move, I believe, was 25%. Let's fact check real quick. Right, 26%. Right, and how much lower did it actually go? 11% below lower lows. Right, not the most devastating volatility event of all time. All of these other moves down here, 30%, I think 30%. This one was probably 30% or something, 25 something percent. If we got another 25% move down, what's that taking us to? 50K? Who cares, right? I still maintain that I think this is all part of our kind of bear market bottoming experience, right? I think a lot of the price-based capitulation on Bitcoin is likely in, and it's going to require some type of FUD. I think this is what I mentioned to you guys on the last stream is that, if we don't have any brand new FUD, right? And it's just the same recycled stuff, such as like wars and stock corrections and macro events and, Saylor clipping out a little bit of Bitcoin to protect his Ponzi STRC. I don't know if that's going to be dramatic enough to create any type of massive 10-10 like move, right? That's the way that I'm speculating in the market at this point, right? So now what's the opposite side of that? Let's say you guys are maximally risk adverse, right? You don't want to play any of these games. You've been burnt. You just want to do the high EV thing. You don't want to speculate on momentum loss or bottoms or locations. You've been scarred by this, right? The smartest thing for you to do is kind of do nothing, right? If you're a fundamental guy, focus up on next narratives, next coins, new developments. If you're an airdrop farming guy, focus up on airdrop farming. If you're a trader, maybe pick up on some new skills or push your weaknesses or, maybe push your strengths further than they can go, right? Work on some of your weaknesses, right? It's just training grounds. You don't have to be all in spot right now. Now, me personally, my positioning, I've been picking up spot. I made a lump sum purchase early June on our first capitulation right here. I made another lump sum purchase. This is beginning of June, beginning of February, beginning of June. And the rest of this time, all I've done is move my perp profits, whatever money that I'm making at the end of the month, move it into spot. I've just been doing this every single month, just slowly building up some Bitcoin exposure. And for me, I'm totally mentally comfortable if Bitcoin goes down another 20 or 30% from here, right? I have more than enough cash at this point. I think right now I'm like 40% maybe, Bitcoin 60% cash. And the idea for me with picking up Bitcoin is hopefully, if I'm correct, time will tell. Again, the bottom line here is a speculative bet. If I'm correct on this, maybe I'll get the opportunity to swap some BTC into some altcoins next summer and I don't have to pay the short-term capital gains taxes on some of my Bitcoin, right? Maybe it's an extremely speculative bet, but maybe it works out for me, maybe it doesn't. Now, what I was saying, if you're on the high end of the risk adversity curve, right, all you really need to do is just wait for weekly trends to flip, right? Whatever this looks like, who knows what it looks like, and just buy a retest on the weekly trends on the way up, like over here. That's your game plan, right? I think maybe I've mentioned it publicly, maybe I've not. I can't really remember what we talked about in the last 2 streams. It's been so long now. There's really 3 ways that you can accumulate coins in a bear market, right? I think there's 3 solid strategies, and you could rank these based on your own personal opinion, fitting your own risk parameters, right? So what's the number 1 option for one person could be the number 3 option for the next guy, right? So those 3 things that you can do is, number 1, buy the absolute FUD events, the scariest moments that you can experience in the market, buy those, right? So in 2022 terms, what would that be like? That's like buying a Luna collapse, that's buying the 3AC collapse, that's buying the FTX collapse. So you buy 3 of these, what's your cost basis gonna be? Maybe 20K, right, in Bitcoin terms. That's one option, right? The second option is wait for 6 months of sideways and do your best to buy that accumulation range, right? So when the market starts going from a downtrend to just going sideways for 6 months, that's when you start accumulating. You're price agnostic. You're just looking for those signs of momentum loss, right? That's when you start your accumulation. The third option is do nothing and wait for the weekly trends to flip and buy a bullish retest of the weekly trends, right? How are these strategies going to fare against one another, right? Let's say you're the guy that buys the capitulation in 3 parts, right? You're buying some at 15K, you're buying some probably 28K, you're buying some at 18K. You'll probably have a 20K average, right? Do the math yourselves, plus minus a couple grand, I don't know, right? Let's say you're the accumulation strat guy, right? You're waiting for like 6 months, you start buying, you're going to buy some at 18K, 20K, 23K, 15K, whatever, right? That's your, cost basis, pretty solid. Let's say you're the weekly trend flip guy, you're probably going to have the highest cost basis, but what you are going to have is the relief of not dealing with FUD and not dealing with stress. You're buying into a market shift. You will have a much higher cost basis, but you haven't had to deal with any mental turmoil, right? You're kind of buying 25, 26K, right? So all of these things are pretty similar. What works for one guy is probably not going to work for the next guy, right? So you guys can figure out what strategies fit yourselves. I have personally chosen to go with option kind of 1 plus 2, right? Kind of mix it in with some bigger buys on the FUDs, and then just slowly accumulate using some perp profits with the kind of 6 month sideways strat, right? Those are the 2 kind of strategies that I've been kind of using and moving very slowly. I'm in no rush. Now, this brings us to the last part of the conversation, which is in the stream title. Price optimist, time pessimist. I do not think time is on our sides for a bull market. Now, there's very few people right now publicly talking about, optimism or any kind of, I don't even want to call it bullishness. Let's just call it optimism for markets in general, crypto markets, right? There's very few people talking about it. But one of the mistakes I see, maybe from my perspective, that they're making is they're talking about it like some imminent opportunity, like it's going to happen fucking today or tomorrow. And if you're not in, you're fucked. I personally don't see that. I still think, like, if we're going by 2022 terms, we're here. This bull market shit isn't going to start for a long time. We might be halfway into this, if not even halfway into this, right? I think there's a lot of time that we are going to spend trading a kind of depressing asset class that doesn't really do anything. Prices are good. I don't think there's any imminent threat of a bull market, right? Any rips that Bitcoin has into a downside test of the weekly trend, in my opinion, is still for selling. Right? I made a tweet a couple days ago. I was talking about the best place for me as someone owning some spot where I can hedge out again. By the way, that's a strategy that I've been doing this entire bear market, is like if I accumulate and we rip up, I'm shorting, I'm hedging. I'm not, I want to lock in any upside that I can and then remove the hedge as we get those pukes lower, right? By no means have any of my hedges been S tier perfect. Oh my God, Doc literally Pico shorted the top and closed this hedge at the Pico. None of that's happening, but it is allowing me to continue stacking capital, right? Getting these opportunities when we get volatile moments in Bitcoin. So if we do get a drive up, right, maybe we go down first, but if we get a move up into the weekly chart, I think that's another opportunity to hedge out some Bitcoin, because I don't believe that we're in a mode right now where we're going to do this. I think this is probably the lowest EV bet out there, right? If you're a guy that has a chart or a plan that says, hey, we're just going to nuke straight line down here to 20K, I think the odds of Bitcoin doing this far exceeds one candle to 100K, right? Because of structure, because of the environment we're in, because of the trends. You want to play with the market meta, not against it. So therefore, I don't see Bitcoin making any type of 50% type of move. I think volatility is going to continue being lower than people imagine. But, if you wanted to make a speculative bet for a swing, the short side makes more sense than, hey, let me just gig a perp long right now in this nonsense, low liquidity, low volume summer environment. Okay, I'm gonna take a breath. I've been rambling for a little bit. Let's go back up, read some chat, and then go back to Bitcoin in a few minutes. That's good to hear, Livin. I literally rewatched almost your streams from 1 year ago till now this week. That's crazy. That's crazy, dude. Peter saying 10% done. I'm assuming you mean when I said that we're, what, 50%? I don't even know what I said the context was, but I remember mentioning something like that. Peter is our resident gay bear. I respect it though. Video unavailable for me. All right. That's Zed being Zed. Don't you just love the seed dance? My boy CFW made that. Really good dude. He made Follis's stream intros as well, which I think are goated. I think the CME chart is way cleaner for the perfect range lines. Yeah, I still look at the CME charts very often, but the one thing is with CME going 24 hours now, this chart's not going to have the same edge, or not going to provide me with the same edge that it once did. For about a year and a half, this was goated for me. I think you found more edge trading Bitcoin if you use the CME chart as your framework, whether it's for VWAPs or EMAs or local trends, 1 hours, anything. I thought the CME chart was a better tool for you than the Binance Perps chart or Coinbase chart or anything like that. I found immense edge with that, but I think this edge is decayed. Or at least strongly decaying with the fact that CME now trades on weekends, right? I think, you're going to have more one-to-one type of price action with this versus, big, on and off points with weekend trading and stuff. Line look down, but yeah. I replied to Poseidon. He responded to one of my tweets. So that's too many words. So TLDR for you guys. I just said a lot of stuff there. And if you zoned out, what I really think about Bitcoin right now is we're in a downtrend. I see some signs of momentum loss. I see some signs of FUD absorption, meaning, people are very scared with Saylor, price not reacting to it, right? 2 months of kind of just crabbing at the same levels that we're used to trading. Market is bearish. Some maybe hidden signs of high time frame momentum loss. If you want to be super risk adverse, do nothing, wait for trends to flip, buy the retest. And that's it. That's your TLDR on how to trade the market. I've given you the 3 ways to accumulate the coins in the bear market. Choose which one is right for you. If you have a 4th option, I'd love to hear it. But I think really all strategies, all good bear market strategies come down to one of those 3. This is so useful. Thank you, Sam. 2x long, stop at 32K for the knowers. I know you're memeing, but for anyone that doesn't think Peter's memeing there, I think leverage swing longs or like bull market longs, like I'm in a 2x long Bitcoin right now and just hang out. There's no way this will happen. I think that's one of the dumbest strategies you can have, right? If you want to lever up, you want to do it within the context of an uptrend. I think if you want to be active here fighting a downtrend, you just want to do it from some safe spot perspectives. Remove my coins from your vapor list? Brother, my guy doesn't know the lore. This has been a vapor list for 2 years now, if not longer. All altcoins are vapor. Probably ETH probably belongs in here too. I don't know why ETH is up with the objective. I have not traded ETH in so long. Yeah, invite me to the cookout, bro. Serious question. Is it that we are the survivors and clever? I'm just sorry, I can't even get through it. And so right about the bottom in a month or two, or do we get surprised in a bad way? I think the most Bitcoin thing Bitcoin could do right now is give us some upside. Like, this is a perfect world for me, right? Give us some upside in the weekly trend, right? A lot of people are bearish right now, so a fantastic move would be moving into the weekly trend at some point within the next few weeks, get people bullish, and make a third drive lower. And this third drive lower doesn't have to be anything, spectacular. Just this move right here, like if we take a measured move, that's a 25% move. That's enough to fuck people up. Right? We don't have to go to 40K to kill people at this moment because there's kind of no one to kill. Who in this market at this point has massive levered risk exposure to the upside, whether they're on altcoins or on Bitcoin, right? I just don't see it. You're not really killing anyone. It's just like in FTX. The only reason people got killed on FTX is because their funds were sitting on FTX. They got full rugged by the exchange. I don't think there's many stories of people absolutely getting brutalized by the dump on coins on FTX itself, right? Maybe if you had FTT exposure, right? That's one thing. But mainly it was just the exchange rugging. Where I saw everyone around me getting obliterated, absolutely obliterated, was on Luna. Luna was the worst thing, right? 3AC was bad, but 3AC, if you guys were around for this, was mainly a Bitcoin and ETH collapse. Altcoins got absolutely destroyed on this Luna move. This is the one that killed the most people. So if I had to rank like devastation across markets, this was the S tier devastation from last cycle. This was Bitcoin and ETH centric, right? Yes, there was like the BlockFi stuff and some, maybe some other stuff going on. But mainly from a market perspective of holders or leverage or traders or whatever, this was the S tier one. This one, maybe we can call it A tier. FTX, I honestly would call this like B tier, right? I don't think this hurt as many, like the nostalgia around this or the allure around this or how we talk about it has been changed over the years versus what we actually experienced in real time. 1010 was 20, 50 times worse than FTX. 1010 was 100 times worse than FTX, right? That's how I would rank them. So, coming to the way that we look at this, I think we've already experienced enough of people just absolutely getting destroyed, right? And I don't think there's enough people in this market that are, risk accepting to have massive parts of their net worth in this market that they're just going to get obliterated on this last move. I think at the worst, there's going to be people like me that own some spot and have a low cost basis that are going underwater on some spot, right? And maybe some of those people puke, maybe some people don't. I don't really see how this market, without FUD, guys, remember there has to be some surprise black swan thing to happen, in my opinion, for us to nuke to 45K or something, because this market's not showing me real signs of weakness, right? When you sit sideways for 6 months, for me, that just starts to look like momentum loss versus the move from 120K to 60K. If you were going to sell, you've probably done it already. Yeah. Okay, wait, I missed some stuff. What's your thoughts on ETHBTC? Let me come back. Let me circle back to that. Any interest to accumulate spot alts that actually have a good thesis? I'm not there yet. So if we use last cycle's, kind of framework, which has maybe a little bit of a use case, maybe not. I didn't really know what the giga printers, I didn't develop conviction until here, right? Down here, I knew in my mind, I want to own some Solana, but I didn't have the courage and guts and risk tolerance to be crazy balls deep Solana down here. I bought some Solana at $11 and $14 and $11. I forgot which one came first. $14 and $11. And then Solana went down to 7. Right? After I had bought it 14, Solana was down, 95% from the top. So I bought some spot at 14, I bought some spot at 11, and then it went down to 7, right? I couldn't bring myself to buy that. I was like, I'm just torching my cash at this point, right? Like, let me just chill. I held on to that Solana underwater and everything. I ended up selling some at 25, right? We had a Q1 rally, sold some at 25. That was when the conviction started building, where I'm like, let me move some of my money out of Bitcoin into some more speculative bets. Solana's been cooking the entire bear market. It still has a strong community. I didn't even know all these DeFi things were going on. I didn't realize how much money was sitting in Solana and farming stuff like Jito and whatever. There was one other airdrop cooker back then, I can't remember. And then I started moving funds out of what I would consider super safe, being Bitcoin, and moving them down the curve to Solana. I didn't learn about Pepe until April of 2023, 4 months into the year, right? We were already, I don't even remember, we're somewhere in here, right? April, May, like we're in this region right here, right? That's when I learned about Pepe. Over the next few months, that's where the Pepe conviction grew. So every time, again, when I would sell some Bitcoin at some highs and stuff like that, I'd move some of that cash into Pepe, move some of that cash into Solana. I built these bags in this range, and then I had to chase them. I wasn't max exposed. I had to chase them along this uptrend too. But this is where the conviction grew for me. I didn't know and have that conviction down here for some of these assets. So I'm looking at this cycle some of the same way of, yeah, there's Hyperliquid. Yeah, maybe, pump fund, maybe this, maybe that. There's some loose conviction alts that you can build at this moment for sure. But I think you're not really going to have max conviction until the market is ready to go. And then you can kind of start to see people's positioning. You can start to see relative strength of certain coins versus others. The same way that you guys have seen Hyperliquid this year, right, is the same way that we were seeing Solana in summer of 2023. When we had brisk on days, Solana was one of the giga strongest, right? You just had to buy those FUD corrections. You had to buy the Robinhood delisting. You had to buy the SEC sues Coinbase. You had to buy the random weekend where all the market makers had to liquidate their Solana and Matic and everything like that and buy Solana during those FUD times in the context of a Bitcoin trend flip, right? So I think time for alts, if you guys have giga conviction like a Hyperliquid or whatever, be my guest. But I think you still have time for alts, right? I think at the very best, they're just going to keep going sideways for a while. If you're looking to sell, you've probably done it already. Yeah. Saylor does. Saylor dies next cycle, not this one. Agreed, Saylor will survive this cycle. I don't have any strong convictions on Saylor one way or the other. If the way that I look at Saylor is I just ignore it. I just don't care. I really don't think he's in any immediate threat. And again, I'm not the smartest when it comes to this stuff, but I don't think he's in any immediate threat of like, oh, he's got to liquidate the entire fund. Yeah, he's being an idiot. Yeah, he's not managing his money well. He's not managing, bringing these Ponzi vehicles like STRC and forcing himself to have to sell his Bitcoin stack low after giga blasting the top. Saylor bought 50% of his entire stack on Bitcoin right here. Saylor and MicroStrategy started buying Bitcoin right here. Like, really let that sink in. They started their Bitcoin like thing somewhere in this range. I don't remember exactly what date, but they started it over here. And 50% of all the Bitcoin they ever bought was up here. And now he's selling Bitcoin down here in order to protect STRC. So is he a giga moron? Yeah, probably, right? You can't really deny that. But, you know, I don't see the immediate case that, oh, he's got to sell 800,000 more Bitcoin. Like, you know, he can survive by being an idiot a lot longer than I think this market understands. Will it eventually catch up to him? Probably, right? Maybe he doesn't survive Bitcoin long term. Would COVID be SSS tier then? I think, you know what? I'm not going to speak on it because I didn't trade COVID. My introduction to markets was literally after COVID. This is where like the first time I really got introduced to markets and you know, had the brokerage. Before that, I had like an IRA account. It didn't fucking count, right? This is where I got introduced to markets. I didn't experience the COVID panic. Is this pre-recorded? Yeah, it's recorded. Sweep the 50K wick at Midas touch on the BlackRock ETF range, then the low will be set. That was my original thought. So like way back, you know, over here when we were losing this, I was really aiming for this wick right here, this 49K Japan yen carry trade wick. May still happen, but like, guys, who cares at this point? Is this supposed to scare me? A move from 59K to, you know, 50K, 14% lower low? Who gives a shit? Hey Doc, quick one. When I'm scalping, I sometimes get locked into trading only one direction. I realize after taking 2 or 3 losses in a row, any advice on catching that bias earlier? Absolutely. Have I ever dealt with this? Absolutely. I've been on the wrong side of trending intraday moves several times, right? Instead of playing with the trend, playing against the trend. The main like difference that or the main improvement that I made when it comes to that kind of stuff is just knowing where I want to trade. Right? I take less trades in no man's land from an intraday perspective and just really try to lock in locations, right? If I'm looking for momentum loss or something like that, I want to make sure it's within the context of, hey, previous week's value area low or weekly value area low or something like that. Give me a strong contextual level, give me some order flow signals, and then I can play the counter trend trade, right? Rather than trying to nail this counter trend for 7, 8, 9, 10 trades in a row before finally catching the reversal, right? And those 8 trades might not even be that bad. They might be tiny little scratches or break-even trades. Maybe I get out at break-even and just pay some fees. But still, like, it's not a great mind space to be in, because even then, when you catch the winner, right? Maybe you've taken some scratches and that's in the back of your mind and you're like, oh, maybe I'll size down and maybe I'll take profits early. Maybe I'll just skim some out to cover some of the losses from earlier. You're just not in a good mental space. So the main adjustment that I made is just being way more selective in my trades. And I think, Paragon members see this all the time. I'm super selective with trades, right? I think last week I had a day where I took 3 trades in a day. And for me, that was like, damn, I can't remember the last time I took 3 trades in a day. Nowadays, current vibes right now, I'm taking 2 to 3 trades a week. Just being hyper selective, making sure my trades are super EV locations, getting strong signals and taking the trades and not really caring about the rest of it. This is with the volatility and the levels that we're trading at, this is really just pennies in front of the steamroller at the moment. If you're like giga locked into multiple assets across the market and not just trading Bitcoin and have a bunch of altcoins in your watch list and trading TradFi, you have so many opportunities out there. But if you're like me and you're just kind of just one-tricking Bitcoin, it hasn't been super fun and enticing for me to want to trade the same levels again and again and again and again and again. It's kind of just pick the high EV locations. Okay, I'm going to move back because I did have a question. What was it? ETHBTC? All right, let's cover that. ETHBTC. Not something I have cared about in a long time. TradingView is lagging. Crazy. Holy. Let's see. All right, the most important thing to look at, what is this? Alerts? One sec, 63.9. Good puke today. Let's send another alert right here. Maybe we take some live trades if that gets hit. Otherwise, I don't really care. Okay, back to it. ETHBTC. Holy, my trading view is lagging. Okay, most important thing to note on ETHBTC is long-standing weekly trend, basically from the ETH merge top, right? All the way back down to range lows, all the way back down to last cycle's pretty much bear market bottom. Yes, this was a very clean rally driven by the ETH treasury companies in 2025, has been selling off. Really, to me, what the most important thing to look at ETHBTC is you have a clean range between two levels, clear resistance, clear support. The trend that took you from range highs, let's start back actually. The trend that took you from range low to range high broke, made a range, and then reversed, right? The trend that took you from range high to range low broke, most likely builds a range. If it can build out a range, it may even reverse, right? There's not much more to say on ETHBTC from here. I'm not going to look at this on a 4-hour chart or a daily chart. I think weekly is good enough for something like an ETHBTC, right? If you're bullish on ETH, I think you just work with the same levels that you've been working with on ETH, right? So one of the things we talked about with Bitcoin is, hey, let's get a move into the weekly trend, right? ETH has gotten this. ETH moved in the weekly trend and showed signs of momentum loss, right? This is a solid location to look for ETH or look to fade ETH, right? Where's a solid location to pick up ETH? Again, the same contextual levels that we've been working with forever now. Let me mute my phone, sorry. 14, 15K, maybe last cycle's lows. Where are we right now? 18K. I look at this once again as like, if you were someone that wanted ETH exposure going into the 2023, 2024 bull market or whatever, and you wanted ETH exposure, buying down here was not a bad take. It's not a bad position to be in. You really only had one opportunity to buy the bottom after 3AC, right? Like I mentioned, 3AC was really, really strong on Bitcoin and ETH and majors, but the altcoin market didn't get hit that bad by 3AC the same way that it got hit on Luna. So what am I trying to say here? For ETH, like the confluence of mixing ETH versus BTCs, just try to buy ETH at the high time frame levels. Try to buy ETH at 1400 or lower, and don't really concern yourself too much with ETH BTC. If there's a circumstance where ETH flips its weekly downtrend before Bitcoin does, then that gives you an opportunity to say, hey, I think ETH BTC is going to go up here. Bitcoin's still in a high time frame downtrend. ETH is in a high time frame, maybe a trend flip situation and can get some upside from here. That's the way I would look at it versus trying to kind of figure out what's going to happen here. Okay, maybe it's just the ETH BTC chart that my trading view doesn't like. Holy lag. Okay, let's just look at chat while that works itself out. Versus trying to figure out what the hell is going to happen here. I failed to pull the trigger on Monad Composite Breakout. We can look at that in a minute. Someone ban Big Nose, please. Thank you. Get him out of here. Not to jinx your jinx, but we're going to 0 now. What was my jinx? I don't even remember what my jinx was. What up, hyena? Full port long Cardano. Can you take a look at gold, please? Sure. I haven't looked at this in a while, but I remember looking at it and doing some doodles. So I won't share Nelly's strat here, but the day Nelly shared a gold strat with me that I think is very valuable. I'm not going to leak it on stream. But the day he shared that, I remembered, oh, I did do this doodle on gold a while back. I don't remember when I did this. Could have been up for a public stream, could have been for a Paragon stream, but I haven't looked at this in a long time. Doesn't change my thoughts on it, right? So the speculation was long-standing weekly uptrend, massively long-standing weekly uptrend, right? Trend loss. What do we say about trend loss? The ABC is a trend loss. If we're losing a trend, the most respected trend, the first thing, the highest EV thing to bet on is a range. The second highest EV thing to bet on is a reversal or a start of a new downtrend. The lowest EV thing to bet on is like a reclaim continuation, right? Trend is lost, trend is flattened out, and just say, hey, we're just going to reclaim this in one bang and go to new all-time highs, right? There's, time and place for that to play out. That's why it's in the top 3, but it is the lowest EV bet out of the 3. So the highest EV bet is the range. The levels that I marked out was obviously that kind of capitulation swing low and sort of the top where this ran into some momentum loss, right? To the downside, could not break down below range low, kind of crabbed here, getting a bit of relief. I think the best thing you could do is just kind of draw a mid-range, which we can do real quick. Which tool is it? And see that we're coming back into mid-range. We're coming back into the last point of breakdown being slow walk down, bleed crab, acceleration and selling, right? Acceleration and selling into the eventual kind of low bound location. Trading into this region should be a difficult region to break. If you're long from the lows on gold or whatever, maybe pay yourself right here, hedge out, do something like that. But it just looks like a range bound asset to me for a little bit. The higher it comes into this premium, the better it'll be for you to like entertain selling, taking profit, hedging, shorting, whatever. We could look at some prior examples of gold losing a long-standing weekly uptrend. So it's 2019 to 2020, 1 year long uptrend, developed a long-standing range. So choppy range-bound price action before eventually building another weekly uptrend. Again, 2 year long weekly uptrend, it's probably going to be a range-bound asset for some time, right? I don't think there's going to be any immediate second leg of this bull market after such a monumental, repricing on gold. ADA strongest coin. Pro-typed gold UDST or USDT. Always, dude. I do this shit all the time. I'll go like Apple, just every TradFi ticker can get the USDT treatment, man. Let's move over into some alts. All right, so Hype is probably the only clean high time frame coin out there, right? Very strong resistance level at $50 psychological level. Weekly trend respect been being developed over the past 6 months, 8 months, whatever it's been, dropping back down into weekly trend plus prior support resistance. If there's going to be a continuation on this asset from a high time frame perspective, this is the location to look for that to occur. If the weekly trend is lost, then I would not really call this that much of a trending asset anymore, right? Maybe some quick dip below and reclaim, no big deal, but bleed below 50, to me, it just says that, Hyperliquid's running out of steam, right? Everything that could have gone right for Hyperliquid went right over the past 6 months to a year. Generational bear market ripper, right? Absolutely unbelievable. Not something I expected. I'm sure even some of the biggest Hyperliquid maxis out there didn't expect new all-time highs when Bitcoin was dying, right? So shout out to anyone that caught this trade. I certainly didn't. For me on Hyperliquid, this is the context of where you want to see momentum loss, right? So trading down from $70 down to 50, right? Pretty significant 30% move down. If this is to have a high time frame continuation, this is the location, excuse me, coffee burps. This is the location to be looking for that to occur, right? From a VWAP scan point of view, we still have some stuff to talk about on Bitcoin. I haven't even covered the VWAPs on Bitcoin. My trading view is lagging real bad today. the one that I wanted to share is kind of previous month's values, right? So last month into the month before, so we're looking at the July VWAP and the June VWAP, right? So the June VWAP contained price really well, previous month's value area high, full rotation down to the lows. And as we bled through it, we developed respect for the monthly value area low. So monthly value area low rejection, monthly value area low rejection. Look where we got rejected to open up August, right? Is the previous month's value area low once again. If and when Hyperliquid can get a bid above 58, I think it looks really good for another rotational behavior. But if we can't, it's just gonna be chop at best, bleed at worst, right? It's you know, decent location to look for Hyperliquid to start showing some signs of bearish momentum loss. That is really your bullish assessment of Hyperliquid in this moment. Another coin that looks a lot like this on a high time frame is a coin that I think a lot of you guys traded earlier this year is VVV, right? So again, accumulation range, long-standing trend. Let's pull up the trend real quick. You guys can see one of the cleanest daily trends that I've seen in a while, all the way from like $2 to 20, 50% correction from the daily trend loss down to the weekly trend, weekly demand, prior all-time highs, pretty solid level. What you'd want to see from VVV here is momentum loss. If you can get momentum loss within the context of this range low, this weekly demand, this weekly trend, it probably looks good up to trade up again, right? You need to start seeing momentum loss in this region, which you're kind of seeing, right? So you see a very grindy bleed down move into the weekly demand, tap of the weekly demand, ran a bunch of lows, got a ripper rally, bleeding back down to the weekly trend again. You need to see this round off in this location to look for higher targets. I did buy some spot VVV. I was sharing with the Paragon boys that I wanted to buy within the context of the weekly trend. I didn't know if this is going to bleed all the way down to weekly demand. The highest conviction that I had for VVV was a confluent tag of weekly demand and weekly trend. One of the playbooks that I used to love running back in 2023 on you know, high time frame corrections, 2023, 2024. So I got that. I positioned very, very small into like the top of the weekly trend, and then I got the gigabid filled on this wick. So I have a really clean cost basis. It's not fun to round trip this, and if you know, I'm gonna give myself, the music stop playing? Ah, girlfriend stole the music. No. We're not doing that. All right, we're back. What was I saying? Yeah, I got a ripper from the weekly demand, weekly trend. I did not take any profits, right? I'm going to be completely honest with that. I didn't take any profits on the swing high, the 40-50% move that we got. I'm still holding the same position. The invalidation is the exact same, right? If we lose the weekly demand, I'm not going to hold this, right? Even if I'm selling a local bottom, because the thesis of the trade, right? How do I invalidate myself, right? I'm not invalidating myself blindly based on this level or that level or anything like that. It's mainly, what is the thesis of my trade? The thesis of my trade is, if this is a high time frame trending asset and it is going to continue to trade against the market, then it should hold this region. If it doesn't hold this region, there's something fundamentally wrong, and the market is not seeing it the way that I'm seeing it. Therefore, I'm wrong in the position and I'll close it. End of story, right? So before we even enter anything, we accept both sides. We say, this is the high EV place to take profits. This is where my invalidation is on the thesis. I will close the position here if I'm wrong, and I'm willing to take that L if I'm wrong, right? So that's the way I see it. But yeah, you know, in hindsight, probably should have taken some profit or hedged out, given the total environment of the market that we're in, for sure. Got to share it both ways though. Was there something that you had to unlearn to become profitable? Great question. Unlearn. I wouldn't say systematically, but there are some like biases that I held that were not great, right? Like, meaning the way this candle closed, you know, is making me bearish. Oh, it closed with a long wick to the upside, therefore, you know, this coin is topped. Or it closed with a long wick to the downside, therefore this coin is bottomed, right? Simple things like that. I think are just like biases that you develop from, you know, learning from other people, price action traders, whatever, that don't really mean anything, right? The way, you know, I think I did a YouTube short, or maybe it was on Twitter too, talking about this in one of the Paragon streams, and one of the homies, probably Lear or Wusong, clipped it. And I was just kind of saying the same thing is, you know, there's certain biases that we hold that really don't amount to anything, but we hold on to them just because we think it's the right thing to do. Systematically, I was very fortunate to be following the correct people, right? Before I took this very seriously and I was just kind of like a tourist in markets, yeah, I held on to a lot of like dumb shit, right? Like I was charting coins on log scale, right? I was looking at high time frame on log for like simple, you know, TA and whatever. I think I drew a lot of diagonal lines, you know, back then when I was a tourist, right? There's a bunch of stuff that I would consider like rookie stuff that you know, think is important, head and shoulders and whatever, you know, those kind of market patterns. And then you eventually learn, when you learn from the right people, like, oh, this is all just baloney. Like, let me trade with a real winning system that has been proven by a lot of other traders, whether it's price action or EMAs or VWAPs or order flow or whatever, right? You can make a bunch of stuff work, but just learn from someone who has a proven track record of using these things successfully. Pump and lit also low key. Yeah. I should talk about those for sure. So pump is one that I shared thoughts on a couple months ago, that I was thinking like I should accumulate some spot pump. I was really thinking about it somewhere, you know, down here. I didn't, because for me, you know, I want something to prove that it's going sideways and not bleeding. And this is definitely a very good fake out by pump, right? To kind of appear that it's still bleeding and it's not done bleeding. I wasn't aggressive enough to pick up any spot down here, and that's something that I regret, but I still think this is still a range, a bear market kind of accumulation range, right? So I think, you know, if it does drive a little bit higher, it will probably get bonked at some prior highs. It will probably come down and give you another opportunity. If this is something that you want to bet on going into a bull market, I think you will get another opportunity, because this doesn't look the same as hyperliquid. Like hyperliquid literally is doing this, right, on high time frame. It's broken out. It had a little accumulation range. It broke out of the accumulation range. It set value higher. It expanded higher. It looks completely different than something that is kind of going down only like this, right? So if you really want to FOMO into pump and you're like, I need a position, it's killing me, I still wouldn't recommend buying anything at a premium of an accumulation range. But if you absolutely have to, right, just recognize that it can come all the way down here, which is what, going to be 40%, if not more, 46% back down to range low. That's, you know, completely a possibility. And if that fits in your risk parameters of owning something like this, you know, be my guest. Because ultimately what you're doing with a lot of these accumulation ranges, like, let's use an example like Link, because Sam's in chat, so why not? Right, let's use a Link example. Let's say, you know, you saw an asset that was ranging like this, right? And you said, oh, I absolutely have to own some Link, right? I have to own this because I know it's going to put in a 2 or 3x when it breaks out of the range, and I want exposure to that rally, and I can't have any patience to wait for range mid or range low or any discounts. I have to top blast right here. Well, okay, it wasn't fun for you for a little bit. Maybe you got shaken out by this move, but ultimately you're looking to sell these kind of rallies, right? You're looking to sell a range breakout that's multiple months and maybe even years down the line, right? Something like a Link from you know, last cycle, bottomed pretty much May 2022, sat in the same range till October of 2023. You know, a year and a half, right? A year and 3 months. Really, really, really long time to sit in a range before you get that kind of range expansion move. So think about these things when it comes to picking up spot for certain things. You know, think, how would I respond if this happened? How would I respond if we went back to range low? How am I going to respond if it breaks out up here without me, right? If there's some kind of low EV move that happens and you're like, oh, pump it's doing this, right? And it's just going to do one of these, and I'm never going to get in board, right? And I have to buy some, right? Well, weigh the pros and cons of how you're going to size these positions, what kind of drawdown you're willing to take on a position, right? How much opportunity cost you're willing to sit through, how much conviction do you have in this asset to hold through volatility, and how will you feel if you miss this rally, and how will you feel if you bought the top and you had to close at the lows? Like, really consider all of these options that could occur in markets to develop a game plan for you, right? Again, what works for one person is not going to work for another person. All of us have different risk parameters that we deal with our cash, right? There's no one kind of one size fits all. The thing that I've explained to you guys over the years through dozens of my streams is when a coin goes down like this and sits sideways, you simply just want to accumulate some of that coin at range, mid, or below if possible, and just chill. Just chill and wait for the next kind of risk on move. Now, coin picking here is going to come down to your guys' own brains, right? I'm not the fundamentalist out here. I'm not going to tell you which coins in accumulation range are the good ones versus the bad ones. I'm more of a trader than I am a kind of a fundamentals expert. I'm the last thing when it comes to fundamentals. I rely on other people to develop conviction in certain fundamental coins, unless it's very simple, right? The two things that I had the most conviction in last cycle was Solana and Pepe. And both of those did not have the highest IQ thesis, right? The Solana thesis was simple. It's like, if ETH is going to go from proof of work to proof of stake, it has lost its advantage over other L1s, right? The 2021 cycle was all about ETH killers, ETH killers, ETH killers. And I really didn't believe in the ETH killer narrative, even though I didn't have the most knowledge back in that cycle on fundamentals, because I, understood well enough through learning extensively about Bitcoin that proof of work is the only real strong innovation of crypto, right? That's the strongest foundational innovation of crypto is proof of work. Proof of stake is dog shit, in my opinion, right? And if ETH is going to go from proof of work to proof of stake, it's kind of leveled the playing field for a bunch of other altcoins, a bunch of other L1s. The best L1 from the 21 cycle was Solana. Therefore, I want some exposure to Solana because I think it has more upside versus ETH. That was the simple low IQ bet that I made on Solana. The Pepe thesis was so simple as well. It was like, this is the meme coin all of us use on CT all day. Not anymore, but back in the day, that was true. This is the most used emote in Discord. We use Pepe's for everything. If anyone wants to make their own kind of spin on a meme, they use the Pepe template and like change the color and stuff like that, right? This was the old meta, right? All the message boards online were Pepe's. If you look at gaming culture and you go on Twitch, all of the emotes and chats back in the day were Pepe's. So I was like, why wouldn't the best meme in the world do well in a bull market, right? We already saw Doge and SHIB outperform everything in 2021 by a mile, right? Why wouldn't I bet on the meme coin? I was really early to that thesis and I stuck by it, right? I thought it was just too IQ. I personally don't have any of those right now. I have no strong conviction in anything across the market when it comes to altcoins right now. My highest conviction is just, hey, Bitcoin should make new all-time highs. It looks cheap. If momentum continues being lost, I'm going to continue picking up Bitcoin. What up, Ofer? Ofer? What up, man? Hello, up or down? Charlie, someone give this guy a TLDR. Another question is, what's something in your process that works great for you, but would hurt anyone who copied it exactly? Ooh. Man, good question. I'm really trying to dig deep here and think. Is there something I do well that works for me that I'm confident wouldn't work for someone else? Shit. I really don't think so, man. I really don't think so. Like now, I've been trading low time frames as the kind of mainstay of my trading for a year, a little bit longer, 18 months, 2 years, something like that. The first time I started trading intradays was 2 years ago. The first time I made intradays my like mainstay strategy was like 18 months ago. Over the course of this 18 months, we've had a lot of students in Paragon that I've taught the system to that have shown great amount of success. Like Nelly is a great example. You guys all know Nelly now. I'm not going to take full credit, but like what he learned was a lot from me, a lot from Magus, a lot from Charlie, right? Put his own spin on it, of course. And there's just countless other examples of traders that have come in and learned from me and Magus and Charlie and shown a great deal of success. So I really don't think there's anything that I do that would be detrimental to someone, to be honest. We've seen, I don't know how many examples of traders, you know, taking the intraday systems and making it work for themselves. Salsa tequila's giga bullish. That's all you need to know, Charlie. Tequila's bullish, Don Alt's bullish, Ansem's bullish. I don't think there's anyone else that I follow that has shown an ounce of optimism. I'm optimistic, but I'm not like, I don't think there's any bull market coming. So Charlie and I have gone back and forth a little bit on like high time frame thoughts and ideas. So I already did that in the beginning, but zero shot Charlie's going to go back and rewatch. So 30-second TLDR. I think there is some legitimate signs of high time frame momentum loss for bears. Trends are pointing down, market structure is pointing down. Therefore, the logical resolution is down. But reading between some of the lines, there's some momentum loss. What about up? Do I think up is coming immediately? Absolutely not. I don't think there's any bull market coming this month, this quarter, next quarter. I think we're 6-8 months away from any type of rally that would take us to all-time highs, maybe longer, maybe 1 year out from something like that. I'm not absolutely bullish on time. It's in the title, right? Price optimist, time pessimist. I don't think there's any kind of upside. If we had any kind of move from this range into the context of the weekly trend, I think that's for bonking, right? It's probably the one place where Charlie and I see things differently, right? He wants to go, I'm not going to speak for him, right? But I believe that he's looking at like 65 or 66K as an opportunity to be very aggressive, right? For a short period of time, like risk on rotations. Let's gather some strength across the market, use spaghetti and fucking dominate the 2-3 days that the market is risk on, right? Me, on the other hand, I would be looking to say, set up maybe a swing short or a hedge, right? I would like the market to trade higher. Yes, I'll trade the market to the upside and then use this as an opportunity to short the market back down. That is my highest conviction trade at the moment, is if we swing up, I want to short it back down. If we're sitting in this range, I'm not going to do anything sexy, fancy, or anything like that. I'm just going to trade intradays. If I'm given a trade, if I'm not given a trade, I don't give a shit. Next day, maybe the day after. That's how I see the market. Another question, what's a question you wish viewers asked more often instead of asking for entries or setups or charting? These are great questions today, dude. Great questions, JP. What's something I wish people asked more often? Trading intangibles questions, which I think is tough because the natural progression of traders is to be very systematically focused, levels, entries, systems, indicators, before reaching this idea that a lot of this stuff is, it's makeup at the end of the day, right? You can see the market in multiple different ways. You can use multiple different systems, indicators, timeframes, whatever to be successful. What makes one trader successful is going to be the intangibles. How do you deal with moments of stress? How do you size your trades across days and weeks and months? Can you be consistent, right? Can you have the discipline to take trades at only high EV locations? Can you avoid trading low EV regions, right? All of these things are trading intangibles related questions, right? They're discipline related questions. They have nothing to do with systems, essentially. And I wish people would ask more questions like that, but I'm 100% aware of the reason that they don't is because they likely have not gotten to that position yet, where they have a comfortable system, a comfortable trading strategy, and they have the kind of self-awareness to recognize, hey, I'm making a lot of mistakes, right? I am front running my entries. I am taking trades in places that I shouldn't. I am taking a trade because it just came to a level without giving me a trigger. Hey, I've been waiting for this level. We got to this level. Therefore, I'm going to take the trigger, right? Has nothing to do with what are flows like? How's Bitcoin like? Who's involved? Who's pushing the market? Are they doing a good job at it, right? Like longing a level in a downtrend because it's a level may work as like a first test, best test, you know, a reactional bounce, but it might not set up the swing because the flows are still against you, right? Oh, you might see, hey, people are shorting into the low here. They're shorting into the daily low. But what is spot doing? If they're just offloading spot, well, guess what? Shorts have a free ride until that meta shifts. You know, if Big Brother is driving the flows, it doesn't matter what degenerate out there is opening shorts at the low of the day. They're going to be rewarded for that positioning most likely. If they're shorting into the lows of the day at a, you know, confluent level where spot has turned off the faucet, they were selling for a bit and now they're no longer selling anything and people are opening up shorts, yeah, they're in danger. That's a good trigger, right? Probably going on a tangent now, but yeah. Great question, dude. I like that question. I'm in shop from 118, it gapped to 150. I have no idea how to manage the trade. That, without looking at the chart, without looking at anything, what I would say to you is if you've taken a trade, you've entered a position and you did not weigh out, I'm wrong here, I want to take profits here, I want to do this, you are now a bystander in the market. You are just you're an observer. You have no edge left in your trade. You have no idea where this can go. You have no idea where the warning signs are, the weaknesses are, the targets are, anything. You've lucked into a trade that's given you profits, you know, based on what you've said, and you should probably close the trade. Because once again, this is the lesson here is to iron these things out before you ever click enter on a trade. Before you ever enter a trade, you should have a sort of framework and a guidebook of, if price goes here, I do this. If price goes here, I do that. If price goes here, I do nothing, right? Have these things ironed out before you even click enter. But if you're entering positions without a game plan and the market does X, Y, and Z, and you're like, now I don't know what to do, up or down, right? I have no idea. Close the position, right? And make a better game plan for yourself next time. Use it as a learning experience and say, I did this, I did that. You know, this is what the market did. I had no idea what to do. You are no longer in a plus EV position, sir. You are now in a very negative EP position, just hoping the market keeps doing what it's going up. I really hope it just keeps going up, man. I really just hope it just keeps going up. And if it doesn't, you have no plan to exit. You may end up round tripping the whole thing and saying, oh man, I round tripped the whole thing because it didn't fit. You know, I was just hoping it went up. I didn't know when to close. Should I close here? What if it's a local low? Oh, I should just, I don't want to close a local low. It's just going to bounce if I close here, right? These are terrible positions, whether they're winning positions or losing positions. It's always a bad idea to be in a position that you're just clueless on. Everyone has their own biology. Personally, I can't do LTF. I'm not able to hyper concentrate like you guys. I prefer calmed and prolonged thinking. Totally valid, dude. I traded high time frames for the majority. Well, maybe it's not the majority. It's still the majority, I guess, of my trading career. And I looked at it. I was like, low time frames are not something I can do. I can't do this. There's no way I can make decisions fast enough. I won't be able to get this. That was my mentality, like, for a long time. And the thing that changed my mindset, it was like, I can't sit at charts all day. I don't want to. I don't want to sit here fucking 14 hours a day every day. I don't want to wake up to alerts at 2 o'clock in the morning because triggers are being hit. I don't want to deal with high time frame stuff anymore, right? I'd rather just lock in and clock out. So I forced myself to shift the low time frame. So I did it by necessity. But yeah, I mean, it's totally valid to just say, I don't want to do that. Screw it. To be honest, I was hoping for some bullish momentum above 66, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's not a great location, right? Like this is just resistance across the board. I talked about this in my outlook this morning. You're sitting at composite value rate high, 2 months value. You need takers up here. You need strong bullish taker flow to eat through this. Look at all these asks sitting up here, right? Some of these were getting filled. Some of these drives up were filling asks and filling asks and filling asks. Do you know the tremendous amount of effort and buy power you need to continue trading through ask? You need a lot, right? So one of the things that we saw in our April-May rally, should go out way more. One of the things that we saw during this rally, it's probably not going to load all the asks, but there were asks walls the entire way up, and we had strong taker flow. I mean, even if you look at it like from here, this is just perp longs, all these blue spikes, right? This is not showing you the spot charts, but there was strong effort that was driving price higher into asks, higher into asks, higher into asks, higher into asks. And right now we haven't really seen too much of that. Yeah, there's been a little bit, but comparing it to April and May, this is, you know, a drop in the bucket. And I think a lot of that is the seasonality, right? Saturday, I tweeted about this yesterday, but Saturday was the 6th lowest volume day we've seen in 5 years. Like, look at this. This is a disgrace, right? This is showing you the amount of participation. Yeah, it's a weekend, and weekend flows are always illiquid and you know, low volume, but this was exceptionally low volume. You know, I think Bitcoin went like 15 minutes without moving price at one point this weekend. Right, this is like 10 minutes right here. What is this? From 550 to 6, this is like 20 minutes of price not even moving. No one's interested in Bitcoin right now. That's not a recipe for success at the moment, right? That plus, again, I forgot, we haven't even gone through VWAPs, but if I get a chance, right? Previous month's value very high. So when you're trading at resistance and you have a bunch of asks stacked above, you need gigachads to buy into the resistance. It's not just going to happen automatically. You're not going to just break through all the liquidity above without strong taker flows, and you don't have that, right? It's not going to work out well. Part of my outlook this morning was like, guys, I don't really want to play momentum through here unless I see some takers. I don't really think we're going to have any takers. Therefore, let's just wait for previous week's values, right? Maybe previous week's VWAP, maybe previous week's value area low. There was no reaction right here. This is, I think, where I was opening up the stream. Price was sitting right here. I didn't really see anything bullish that was occurring in that location. Didn't want to take a trade. Wait for previous week's value area low. Maybe wait for a reclaim. Maybe wait for a local comp. Anything that can give me a way to contextualize risk. Meaning, if I'm taking a long here, if I'm taking a short here, this is where I'm wrong. This is where I'm right. I don't have that yet. It's just a bleeder. You're sitting in no man's land with previous values. You might be sitting at previous or monthly VWAP. Let's see. We're below monthly VWAP. Maybe if this rounds out right here, maybe something can form by tomorrow or the day after. If not, let's look for, you know, previous month's VWAP, monthly value area low, previous week's value area low, right? All of these kind of overlapping levels right here are really solid to kind of look for some reversion. I have a problem with my analysis. What do you think about this? Last cycle, negative 78%. This cycle, 70% would be 37K. The problem is that the 300 week is also at 55 and the 400 week is 44. Bitcoin has never dropped below the 400 week. I think there's a lot of problems with this analysis, right? So number one, in 2022, I don't think Bitcoin had ever closed below the 200 week. How do I want to do this? We'll go to the index chart. Get rid of this. Go to the weekly, put it on log. Grab the 200. Okay, SMA2, SMA3, SMA2, SMA3, and get rid of all of these. Right? So going into last cycle, right, or, you know, the bottom, people were like, if you buy the 200-week moving average, you're good. Historically, the 200-week right here, maybe there's a wick into the 300-week, right? 200-week right here, maybe there's a wick into the 300-week. 200-week right here, maybe there's a wick into the 300-week. We dropped below the 300-week and people started putting the 400-week on there, right? I don't think it's a valid approach now this cycle where you're like, okay, we're at the 200-week, maybe we wick into the 300-week, maybe we go to the 400-week, maybe go to the 500-week, right? I don't think it's a very valid approach. But one thing that you could kind of do for yourself is just say, hey, we've kind of bottomed around these regions. Therefore, it's probably a decent buy opportunity, even if it goes a little bit lower. You know, historically speaking, we've bottomed around here. But using these as strict frameworks of like, oh, it's never happened before, right? Another thing that's never happened before, we never went to all-time high before a halving, right? Bitcoin hit all-time high before the Bitcoin halving. That never happened before. Bitcoin had never put in an 8-month range in the middle of a bull market before. It did that twice last cycle. It had never done that along any other rally before. It's put in, you know, a 4-month range and then uptrend. When it uptrends, it just kind of uptrends. When it uptrends, it just straight uptrends. There's no value building. So there's a lot of things different. So all of these kind of analysis that we put forth, we got to take it with a grain of salt. Last question that I was prepared for the stream. What's a sign a trader is going to make it if it has nothing to do with P&L? And what's a sign someone won't make it even if they're profitable, right? Even if they're profitable right now. So I usually have a good feel for these things. Like students, when they come into Paragon, I usually have a good gut feel of like which dudes are going to progress and which dudes aren't. And I think it really just comes down to how much effort they're putting in, right? I can tell when someone comes in and they ask questions, they're attentive for streams, they're saying, hey, Doc, review my trades. What do you think of this position that I took? What could I have improved on here? Why did you take that trade? What forced you to cut that trade? What trigger did you see? They're very inquisitive, right? And I can tell that person, that there's like drive and hunger there that not a lot of people have. A lot of other people are just, you know, they go by this thought process of like, hours in the game is all that matters, right? I just need screen time, screen time, screen time. It's like, no, you need time in trade. You need effective reps. You need quality over quantity, right? An example that I use is from my tennis days is one of the things my dad told me when I was younger is like, dude, you're tall for your age, but kids are serving way bigger than you. Your serve is not good. So you need to practice your serve. So you'd say after practice, grab a bucket of balls and serve, right? Take more serves, right? You need to improve on this. Me, a kid, teenager, I'm thinking, oh yeah, I just need to hit a basket of serves. So while I was serving, I was like, oh, there's 50 balls left in the basket. It's 40. I can almost leave. There's 30 left. There's 20 left. There's 10 left. All right, I'm almost done. All right, let's get the hell out of here. I didn't spend any of that time actually thinking, okay, how do I improve serve to serve? How am I supposed to get better here? Okay, I didn't actually improve today. Let me go pick up all the balls, put them back in the basket and serve a second basket of balls, right? There's a certain quality and certain character that certain people have that I think are winning traits. And I look at trading a lot like a sport, right? I think there's a lot of metaphors and similarities between sports and trading, or maybe high level, video games or any kind of craftsmanship that requires dedication to the highest level. I think trading falls in that category. Trading is not academic. It's not just, if I read this chapter for homework, I'm just going to suddenly be smart, right? You can do that with medicine. You could just keep reading the same pages, understand the concepts, and then great, pass your tests, and great, you're a doctor, right? You can brute force things. You can't do that with trading. So I think that certain characteristic of human will separate someone from being a winner and a loser, right? Even if someone takes they're a profitable trader and they take a massive L and they wipe themselves out, I'll know which person has the quality to say he'll make it all back, right? He had a winning formula, he made a mistake, he has the mental fortitude, he'll be back. Versus someone who, has won during the bull market, but I'm like, that's not a winner, right? I'm pretty sure they're going to lose everything through the bear market. I would say coming from that perspective. Also, if you want like a technical answer, I would say it's more like vibes-based sizing, right? Oh, I'm feeling good today, let me size up. I'm feeling bad today, let me size down. Like vibes-based sizing is a terrible trait for any winning or losing trader. Charlie next stream, price pessimist, time pessimist, everything pessimist, Bitcoin pessimist, crypto pessimist, Jim optimist. That's going to be Charlie's stream title. Jim Optimist, looks maxing Optimist. Doc, that's pretty much my view. I'm so behind on stream. I know I'm reading Charlie's comments from like 15 minutes ago. I'm sorry, guys. Pretty much my view. Break the range. Everyone gets mental for a day or three. We get some nice rotation. After that, who knows? Yeah. There's no one I'm more confident in Charlie of I'm going to take some time off. And when conditions are right, I'm going to outperform all of you, right? And Charlie's done this to me several times where like I'm in here trading every single day. I'm feeling comfy and good about my P&L. Oh yeah, I'm up a lot of money over the past 3 months. And Charlie will take 3 months off, come in one weekend and outperform my 3 months in 3 days, right? That's edge. That's knowing yourself. That's knowing your strengths. That's knowing your weaknesses and just quadruple downing on your strengths. And the rest of the time, let's have fun, you know? Nice one, Rio. I thought we had some juice. Yeah, I mean, it's always like, look, man, I took the swing, so I'm responding to Chester here. I took the swing down here, right? This was the framework that I kept on showing you guys on CT, and I talked a lot about this, about how clean the monthly VWAP has looked and how rotating back into value is very optimistic for us forming a range, right? We had a very clean, I think, hourly or 4-hour downtrend. I can't remember which one it was. When we broke that, I said, let's build out a range here, right? What is the most optimistic target going into July? If we can hold previous month's value area low, it opens up a rotation of previous month's value area high. This took so long to play out, but I knew where I was right and I knew where I was wrong, right? And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this range fucking tested the hell out of me, right? I had round tripped my long 4 or 5 times, right? But I said, hey, the thesis is not dead. We're continuing to hold the monthly VWAP. I am going to continue holding on to this trade. And I had one, you know, I talk about this a lot, like what separates a giga banger trade from a mid trade or whatever, or a bad trade is 1 to 2 moments of mental fortitude in a trade when you're just holding, right? You're not, your thesis isn't broken, or you're at entry and you're dealing with some volatility, but you're still on the right side, but you just can't fuck yourself up. So one of the things I did, we got this spike up going into a weekend. It was like Friday. And I was like, I'm taking 30% of the position off. I have to pay myself. I've just been round tripping for like 2 weeks. I know the target is higher, but I have to pay myself something. So I took 33% off here. We had another move up, I think Monday. It was like futures open. I took another 33% off. And then like the following day, Tuesday, we finally hit 66K and I took the whole position off. But it took a long time to play out. From here, you said you're long from 64K. So I'm assuming, you know, I actually don't know what the thesis you were building off of this one. You know, it doesn't fit a monthly VWAP framework. Maybe there's something I'm just, you know, missing. But when you see prices trading into resistance, and you know this value was really strong last month, it's going strong into this month, and we're going to require a lot of buying power up here. You know, pay yourself at the obvious targets, right? You didn't position into a discount. You kind of positioned into a premium, right? So you're taking more of a momentum-based trade than a, you know, a framework trade. When you're taking a momentum-based trade, you have to have momentum-based invalidations, right? If you're long in a bull market and we're just trading off an EMA, right? And you're like, oh, I'm just buying this, right? You didn't buy the accumulation range, you didn't buy the breakout retest, you didn't buy any of this, you're buying into the trend. Well, okay, if the trend is broken, we have to exit the position, right? The thesis was momentum, so the invalidation is momentum. $65K, the bottom is in, sellers are exhausted, downside momentum is stalling. $6K, the bottom is in, sellers are exhausted, downside momentum is stalling. Hey, fair. One thing is, you know, a lot of what I've done this stream is compare this bear market to the last bear market, because there's not many, there's not a large enough data set, right? You can either compare to the 2018 bottom or the 2022 bottom or the 2014 bottom or something like that. But one of the things that all bottoms have in common is prolonged sort of momentum loss over a long period of time. 2018 is one of the ones where you had an excessive downside move, like 50% down off of 6K to 3K, 50% down. My counter argument against that is Bitcoin doesn't really have 50% down move in it anymore, right? It doesn't have a 50% up move in it at this point anymore either. A lot of the corrections or downswings that we've been getting is like 30%. So you could probably, bearishly hope for 20 to 30% again. Another thing you should note is like drives down get weaker, right? That this Bitcoin drive down is like weaker and weaker and weaker. So there are signs of momentum loss, but if you want to blindly hold a thesis like that, be my guest. Nothing wrong with that. You also get a weird gut feeling when making a hard decision. For example, shit goes up. I plan to go the other way here, but shit looks strong. What tips do you have over there? 100%. Everyone deals with that. So you can have a strong, high conviction thesis of like, I'm going to execute at this level. I think, enough confluences are being built. I have to take a stab here. Price gets to that region. And you're like, no. X, Y, and Z is happening. I can't do this. But you have to understand every trade has the probability of being a losing trade, right? Every trade can be a losing trade. In order to be a trader, you have to accept mentally, I can be wrong. Before clicking the button, before entering a position, you have to say, hey, this could go wrong for me. And this is the amount of money I'm willing to lose. This fits within my risk. And once you accept that, you kind of mentally are free. You don't have to deal with the stress. You're just kind of like, I accepted that if this trade is wrong, I'm going to lose $50 or 500, 5,000 or whatever your risk parameter is. I'm going to lose this if I'm wrong. Therefore, fucking send the trade. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. Who cares? That's how it should be, right? You have to think these things through before clicking the trigger, right? If you're like, oh, I'm going to lose this before I even click, and therefore I'm too scared to click because it could be a losing trade, you're never going to win a trade. You're always going to be a losing trader. This motherfucker clapping as he makes a point. Maybe I was, dude. Enthusiasm. For someone just starting with order flow, is CVD a good starting point to train on? How far can it get you, and what should I look for after that? The way that I use CVDs or volume deltas or anything like that is using a delta histogram. I learned this from Magus, using Agar rather than using kind of the linear lines of CVDs, where you kind of lose some of the nuance between things. I think just looking at flows, second by second, I use it a 10-second chart. You can use one. I've had a lot of success using 1-minute chart too, but just kind of seeing the flows as they come in, right? And rather than using the cumulative delta of like this entire session, this is what happened, but rather looking at point per point, like saying, okay, this is a level that I want to execute at. I want to execute at 64K or something. I want to short 64K. Okay, what are the flows looking like here? Who's driving price? Who's in control of the market? What is the meta bend for the last hour? Are they continuing that meta, or are they kind of being exhausted or whatever? Is there a new initiation here, right? Someone was selling for a lot, now they're buying a lot, right? What are the interactions between CVD and perp open and closing? What is open interest doing? What are the net positionings looking like? What is the location looking like? Like a combination of all of these things together gives you a really good picture. But just using, I've never used it simply because Magus told me, hey, don't use the linear CVDs way back. He focuses on the delta histogram. So I did the exact same thing and found a lot of success using it this way as well. Number one chatterhead asked, that's my boy. Thank you all. DC at Bitcoin November, December, no matter what the price is. Okay. I'm gonna ask I want to ask quality questions, but I'm never gonna outdo the girlfriend gift question that you guys clipped on Twitter. Bar so high, it collapsed under its own weight. That's too funny. You use Kelly sizing? No, I don't focus on the Kelly criteria or all the other kind of classic portfolio management statistics. I use fixed sizing. So for me, I'm not really like setup is S tier, I size high. I just kind of trade the same size for everything. It makes it so simple for me, and I accept the variance. So like, for example, if I'm confident in a long and I'm getting triggers, but I'm like, hey, the invalidation is 300 points away, I'm going to size the same and maybe eat a bigger loss that day. If the next day my invalidation is 50 points away, I'm going to size the same and eat a smaller loss if I'm wrong, right? I don't really worry too much about dynamic sizing. I'm just going to kind of send the same sizing every single day. But I've been kind of stuck in this meta for a while now. I've been trading the same way for a couple years. I really haven't tinkered too much. The way that I size up is just very small incrementally, like to the point where it's like negligible and I don't even notice it, right? That's how I start sizing up into trades over time. Did she stole the music again? No, no, no. No, no, no. Strike 2. I'm finally caught up with chat, I think. Yeah, no problem, bro. Good questions. What's the girlfriend gift question? Someone, I don't, if it was like Christmas or something like that. I don't even remember what it was. Someone was like, give me suggestions of what I should get my girlfriend for Christmas. And I forgot what I replied. I was like, just fucking pay attention through the year. They'll mention stuff and just write in your notes and then buy that. People will tell you what they want you to buy them without, you know, without you having to ask. You just got to pay attention. We simply play where and when we have edge. 100%, dude. Couldn't help but ask this question. What's an emotion you've learned to treat as information? Like when you catch yourself feeling a certain way, you already know what mistake is coming. This is one that I think I have a good answer for. So one of the things that I learned, so it kind of is a callback to the last question I got asked of like, oh, price is moving too strong into location. What if I'm wrong? I have a hard time executing. I learned in 2022 is a very strong lesson, core lesson from that year is the more fear I feel at entry, the better the trade is. It's just a subconscious thing of like the more fear I'm feeling, like, oh my God, it's too scary. I'm gonna lose money. If I buy here, I'm going to lose money. Holy fuck, this is such a bad idea. I know things are lining up, but like if I click this, maybe I should just size down. Let me just use 50% of my size. Those are always good trades. And when I'm feeling super confident and I'm like, oh, this is of course I can just front run this level a little bit. It'll be fine. It'll work itself out. It's no big deal. Those are always bad trades. So the more comfy I am, the worse the trade is. The more scared and paranoid and overthinking it is, the better the trades are. Just a little subconscious thing, clue that I've got from learning from myself, from journaling and everything like that. Is the family good? Is life good? Everyone has a million trading questions today. No one asks his docs. Okay, life's great, dude. I couldn't be happier right now. I think all of my stresses in life are coming just from like adulting and they have nothing to do with, work or anything like that anymore, which is a big blessing because for so many years, like honestly, like the whole life that I can remember, I was always stressed about work and am I going to make it as a tennis player? What is being a physician going to look like? Oh my God, I got to apply for residency. Hey, the boards are next week. I have final exams for the third year this week. I got to make it as a trader. I only have this much time to prove to my family I can make it as a trader. Those are crazy stressors, man. And nowadays it's just like, all right, I got to get in shape. I gotta propose. I gotta start thinking about kids. We're getting older. Like, oh, the house needs work. Oh shit, I forgot to put chlorine in the pool. Like, those are my stresses nowadays, which is an unbelievable blessing. All right, that's the third time she's taking the music. This is unacceptable. Unacceptable. That's text worthy now. Give me a moment. His neck is cooked. Yeah, there you go. That's the biggest issue right now. I had a kink in my neck and I don't know. You know what I think it is, Nelly? Straight up, I was thinking about this yesterday. So when we moved into the new house, we swapped sides of the bed that we sleep on. So like my side of the bed is always the right side of the bed. Like, or I guess it would be it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But we swapped sides that we slept on. And I was like, man, my neck started hurting pretty much when we moved in here. It's been hurting ever since. Maybe there's some correlation on that. When Doc puts the laser eyes on his PFE, it's a big signal. Brother, I put the PFP laser eyes on one time, I think, and that was like summer of 2024. I think this is the most bullish I've ever been, right? This was another one where, you know, a lot of people didn't see eye to eye with me, and this whole summer right here was a lot of back and forth, a lot of discussion on CT and everything like that, but I was just so bullish in this thing, and I was like, I don't think we're there yet, I don't think we're there yet, but I see it coming. And I remember making a really good trade of, I put some, like a small amount, a very small amount of money into that Apu coin, that meme coin, and it did like a 20x, and then I sold some and I bought some back and it did like another 20x, and I full stacked that entire win to add to my Pepe position a couple days before the election rally. And people were like, oh, we should de-risk before the elections. Do you guys remember that? All that discussion about let's de-risk before the election. You should de-risk going to the election, de-risk going to the election. And all those de-riskers missed this, dude. I was like, no, fuck that, dude. We've sat in here we're ready. We're ready. It's time. But I think I put the laser eyes on in that summer, and I forgot to take them off in Discord. So to this day in Paragon, I still have laser eyes on my PFP. Never swap sides, it's a trap. Can't afford a pool, but not two Spotify accounts. Brother, this has been an ongoing discussion between me and the missus for 10 years. I got Spotify 10 years ago. 2016 is when I got the Spotify account. I remember this fucking vividly because I remember where I was living. I remember the whole conversation. And I was like, there's an option to get two Spotify. She's like, no, we don't ever overlap. Like, it's fine. Why waste money? But it's always, there's always an overlap, like every week. And it's like, no, it's fine. It's fine. I'll go here. And then I'm like, all right, I'll go use YouTube. Stupid. Another systematic one. What would you never automate in your trading, even if you could? And what do you wish you had automated years earlier? I think there was a decent opportunity to automate CME gap fills back in 2025. I think I could have taken that even more so, even if I didn't use like a bot to do it. I think I should have had a side wallet or a side account or something like that where I religiously traded the 5 to 6 p.m. CME gap for reversion, or taken even intra-week, intra-month reversion longs or shorts to fill intra-range CME gaps. I had a lot of opportunities in here and here and here and here, and I capitalized on a lot of those from a discretionary point, but I was not systematic about it. I didn't take every single one. And I think if I took every single one, it was probably the best strategy I've ever had in markets to this day. I don't know if anything is ever going to get topped from a win percentage, because in 2025, I think 99.9% of CME gaps closed in 2025, which is absurd. Absurd. And I didn't share that with you guys in 2025 for the fear of like edge leak, but I shared it a lot once 2026 opened, when I was like, all right, this is not working the same way it once was. No problem, Sam. Love you, bro. Isn't there a family account where more than one person can use? I have no idea. I should probably get it. Can you explain the CME gap anomaly and why the edge existed? So CME gaps had their moment in the spotlight in crypto a long time ago, like 2018, 2020, you know, people were talking about CME gaps a lot, and the edge kind of eroded. So people stopped talking about it. But one thing I noticed, because like I told you guys, I recognized last year that the CME Bitcoin chart was respecting my system on EMAs better than the Coinbase and Binance charts. And I was thinking, I was speculating, I was like, why is this? Why is this happening? And I was like, could it just be more institutional involvement? Could it be the rise of ETFs? Could it be more TradFi and Wall Street flows? That's why the CME chart is working a little bit better. Maybe more people are trading CME now than they ever did before. They've got the big money. Maybe this is the reason. But I didn't really care too much. But I started using the CME chart as my mainstay, like foundation, make game plan chart. And through that experience, you know, obviously the CME chart's not going to be open on weekends. So I started highlighting, okay, there's a CME gap here, CME gap there. And I just whatever the word is I'm looking for, started noticing that these CME gaps just seem to fill every single time and rather quickly. Like not a lot of them have been open for weeks, right? They tend to close pretty quickly. Therefore, maybe I should use this as some kind of signal or some kind of edge. And really all it was like, if we leave a CME gap behind and I get some kind of like, maybe we can use this one, for example. I didn't trade this one, right? So there's a LARP trade for sure. I think, let me just use one that I actually traded. One of the ones I can remember is like up here at the top range. This is the one I'm going to use because this is the one that I used on Twitter. We had a big Friday pump-a-rooski. I think it was some headline-driven thing. And then we nuked the entire weekend. And we left this massive CME gap right here. And I said, if we can get strong flows through this, we're going to fill the entire gap, right? So that allowed me on these pullbacks, if I'm getting long triggers, I want to optimistically aim for 117K. I was like, the gap is from 113 to 117. If I can get long triggers down here, I'm looking for 117. I'm looking for 117. If 117 gets hit, I'm out of the trade. I'm done, right? That's the high EV approach. And if you look at this, how it played out. And this just kept on rinsing and repeating and rinsing and repeating and again and again and again and again. And it was just so high EV for me back then. Stream ended. Zed is boomering once again. Stream did not end, Mr. Zed. Figure your shit out, bro. You said 92% were filled in one of the Paragon articles. The cookbook articles, you mean? Yeah, I think it was even higher than 92. I think it was like 99% 2025, something like that. Maybe it was 92, maybe I'm misremembering, but it was something absurdly high. An edge like that is bound to die. Yeah, it's been completely unfavorable in 2026. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that we started getting headlines late 2025, early 2026. Hey, CME is going 24 hours. It's going 24 hours. Therefore, maybe that edge just, self-fulfilling prophecy eroded. I stopped using it as much there. There was a couple moments where it was like here or something like that, where we tagged the weekly trend in December, or we were close to it, right? And we left some CME gaps behind on this move down right here. And I kept thinking, oh, we could get one more swipe up to fill some of those gaps. We could get one more swipe up. And it wasn't until I think we lost this range low that I was like, yeah, that's out of the picture because we are definitively below the comp, right? Like, fuck that. Oops. Right, it was like right here. It's like I was still being up. I was like, okay, really good opportunity at composite value area low for reversion. Really good opportunity at composite value area low for reversion. Maybe we can swing these higher. But when we got this expansion candle below, right, really strong expansion candle below the comp value, I was like, yeah, all bets are off. Fuck this. This is gone. There's no way we're filling that anymore, right? This is a strong ass breakdown from the 2-month comp. CME price action is much cleaner than exchanges. Is it still? Because I'm not paying attention anymore. Doc, what if I think the weekly trend is cope and what actually drove us high time frame up is the fact that price action was above every previous yearly until it stopped? I don't think that's cope. I think it's just a different framework, right? If you want to use a yearly VWAP framework, that's fantastic. You want to use a weekly trend framework, great. You want to use both of them together, even more strong conviction in your thesis, right? No problem with that. I use both. I use EMAs, I use VWAPs. The weekly isn't that clean. I think it's giga clean, man. I don't think there's anything cleaner in the market than this. I simply don't see one thing in the market that is this clean. I don't know, you tell me. What up, Doc? After a long time. What up, bro? How you been? Catching the end of the stream though. I'll probably head out in a few minutes. Any last minute questions you guys want to ask, feel free. I had fun today. You guys came in, especially JP asked a lot of fantastic questions. Super fun. We covered a lot of things. I think the mainstay kind of TLDR of the stream is literally the headline that I spent a lot of time explaining, which is price optimist, time pessimist. I don't believe there's any immediate threat of a bull market. You need to be max exposed today. If you're not exposed today, you're an idiot. Bull market's coming next week and next month. I don't believe in any of that. I think it's a long time away. I do see some signs of momentum loss to the downside for bears. I think we've spent 6 months trading at the same location. We're 10 months into the bear market. A lot of people are planning for another swipe lower, another bearish event. I think if you wanted a position into a breakdown, the best EV location, should the market give it to you, again, is going to be within the context of the weekly trend. If the market gives that to you and you're still looking to hedge and short, that's the place to do it, right? Don't buy into all the up only, you didn't buy the bottom's in stuff there. I think that's the place to take the hedge. If you're wrong, you're wrong. That's all part of the game. Because these trends will break eventually, right? Eventually it will break. And is there anything else? I don't know. Nah, like reversal probabilities are much higher if price sweeps CME and doesn't sweep on exchanges. Interesting. I'll keep that in mind for sure. But yeah, like I said, I haven't really paid attention to CME a lot because I'm not taking many swings. Like I can count on one hand how many swings I've taken this year. This entire year, maybe 4 swings the whole year. Like not counting hedges. There were plenty of hedges where I owned some Bitcoin spot and I was hedging on the way down, but pure swings, like 3 or 4. I think I'm batting 100% on them, but if I was more swing oriented, maybe I'd pay attention to more high time frame like gaps and CME edges and stuff, but I just haven't really cared too much. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you guys for coming in. Cool for me to see even like 80 people in here, even in a bear market, right? I think 80 people in here would be a really low turnout for a bull market because I think we were getting like 200. But still getting 80 in a bear, I'll take that. That's not bad. Yeah, JP did ask a lot of questions. A good question, Slime. Locked in this year. I love to hear that. Are you more of a day trader? I take scalps, which end up in swings. So yeah, I'm mainly a day trader, right? You're not going to catch me taking like, if I get really lucky after entry where price gets to my target within a few minutes or 30 minutes, yeah, you call that a scalp. But, I'm used to my time in trade, like average hold time being an hour, if not longer. So I guess you can't really call that scalping. What journaling software are you using? I used TradeStream in the past. I haven't used any journaling software in years. I think the last time I used journaling software was like summer of 2024 when I was learning and developing the intraday strategy. So I really did want, trade tracking, performance, what I'm doing right, where my wins are coming from, but I haven't really cared since then. "30-minute scalp is crazy." Yeah, I think even definition 30 minutes is pretty long for a scalp, but by hand, yeah. So that's the other part of it. My journaling has nothing to do with entry exit anymore. HM. I don't really care about trades. Like there's zero value in me writing my trades down. Like if anything, all these like RR tools are like in the charts now. Like I do this for Paragon where I'm like, oh, I'm taking a trade, whatever. This is the setup that I like in the morning. This is, the executions. As you can see, I haven't traded that much. Where's the executions on here? I don't know. Getting lazy. But yeah, they're mainly in here if I care about them. I don't really care about them because I just show them to the homies and that's it. I like pen and paper because it helps me introspect. That's why I like it too. It takes a lot of time to write things down by pen and paper. You really have to acknowledge what you're doing. You can't just, you know, if you do a voice note, it's over in 10 seconds and that's it. There's no self-reflection time. You'll catch a lot of things early, I think, by using pen and paper. If your trade journal could only be 3 columns, what would they be? Bias going into the day. What's the context? What's my bias going into the day? Where are the locations? So this is all one column, right? Label it however you want, but it's, I guess you could call it context, right? This is the context of the day. This is where I think the highest EV triggers would be. If these locations get hit, maybe I will execute. Next column would be your trigger, right? Okay, price is coming into the location that I marked out in the context. Do I have a trigger, right? And maybe with trigger, it would be invalidation, right? Okay, I'm gonna execute here because I think XYZ is happening. I see, people longing into the daily value area high, and that's confluent with the monthly value area high. And there is no spot flows. And all this is a bunch of perps longing into the daily premium. So therefore, I am going to fade this. And I am wrong if by some chance, spot starts buying here and supporting these perp longs, right? So after the weak positioning came in, more robust positioning came in to protect it. Therefore, I am incorrect, right? And then the last thing would be your, summary. It would be like, okay, what did I do wrong here? So like, you'll notice that nothing, like it is entry, exit, whatever, but that's not important. The price of 65.3 and my invalidation 65.5, like that's all bullshit. That doesn't fucking matter at all. Why am I taking the trade? Am I taking the trade? Why did I not take the trade? I got too scared to take the trade. Someone said something. I was fucking walking my dog during the entry. I didn't want to chase. I missed this. So like I was being disciplined to not chase. Oh, there's a good reason to chase. So I took a stab at the chase. All of these things are very important, I think, when it comes to journaling your trades and your execution stuff. Can you reflect on the psychological side of what you write, general overview? Yeah, it's basically what I just said, right? But yeah, it's psychology. You know what I journal more than anything nowadays is just kind of like certain metas of like, oh, this week, there was like, I think the last time I really journaled strictly was I was very bearish into this weekly trend test. This last one in whatever this was, April into May. Yes, it kept grinding higher and grinding higher, but I had already started taking the bearish stance on this first push right here. So I shorted this push. I got a 6% move in one count. I round tripped in the other count. I took another short either on this high or this high. I can't really remember. Round tripped it again, but was on the right side of the thing. Price kept coming up, but like during this whole move, what I was thinking of is like, I'm 100% believing I'm on the right side of the trade. I might just be a little bit early. And then the signal for me is when people started saying, oh, we're just going to front run the STRC flows. Saylor's going to blast 2 mil or fucking 2 bill next week. Therefore, when he does this, we're going to go even higher. And I was like, nope, that's a beautiful, beautiful time to start thinking about fading. And I was a little bit late to that, but I still got the hedge in before the breakdown. I didn't actually ended up getting 100% of the hedge. So a lot of this like journaling in retrospect for me was like, I'm trying to be very cute with hedges and treat them like trades when they're just protective positioning. It's not a trade, right? I don't have to deal with it like a trade. And there's something, Wise Man Magus once talked to me a long time ago. He's like, Doc, don't treat your hedges like trades. They're not trades. They're just protective positioning. It's not some reason to try to pico top and, bottom nail these things. They're not trades, right? Keep your intraday separate from your hedges and stuff. And the the thing I took away from the journaling right here is I got a little too cute. I tried treating them like trades and treating them like perfect executions and didn't want to really be underwater. I wanted to capture the maximum size of this move. So what ended up happening is when I actually saw this breakdown right here and said I need to put the hedge on, I put a 50% hedge on. I didn't even get the max hedge in before this big collapse, right? Because I was like saying to myself, man, I can't hedge the bottom right here. I need a spike up. I need a spike up to get the other 50%. That spike up didn't come, and I was left with a 50% hedge. So like journaling for me nowadays is like these kind of moments of strong conviction. How am I executing? What parameters are happening in the market? What are the news events? How are people trading these things? How am I trading these things? And what can I learn so that the next time this happens, I can improve on my own decision-making, and be a better trader. So like, what I use my journals for is like, okay, I didn't do this thing perfectly. I'm journaling it. The next time I get to this opportunity, let me reread my journal. Let me remember the mindset I was in. Let me remember the mistakes I made. Therefore, I can execute much better this time around. Let me not fall into the same traps. Most people don't do this. Most people just say, oh, it's over. I don't want to think about it. It's so negative. Like, I'll just be better next time. And then the next time it happens, oh, I'm just going to nail it this time. I'm just going to nail it this time. And they end up making the same mistake again, the same mistake again, the same mistake again. This is one of the edges that I have, I think, over a lot of my competition is I'm willing to acknowledge the mistakes and try to improve on them. And I can see these improvements happening incrementally over time, right? Like the trader that I am today is much better than the trader I was in 2025. The trader I was in 2025 is better than 2024. 2024 is better than 2023. 2023 is better than 2022 because we allow ourselves to make mistakes, reflect on them, learn from them, and recognize the market is going to give us another opportunity to take the same trade again. And we have a framework to learn from so that the next time it comes around, let me just be a little bit better. It doesn't need to be perfect. Let me just be a little bit better. Let me just be a little bit better. Hey, Agni Beard is a fan of yours? Yeah, he's a good kid, man. Good kid, good kid. I am not going to buy that. Sorry. Maybe I lose generational wealth. It's okay. I need to journal the mindset of trading. Yeah, it'll be helpful, man. All right. I think that's a good note to leave it on. Appreciate you guys for joining the stream. I had fun. Great questions asked. I'll be back when I'm back, right? Again, I'm not going to promise weekly streams. If I feel like streaming next week, I'll stream next week. If I don't, I probably won't. But, everything that was covered is probably going to be relevant next week again. I'm not expecting the biggest shakeup of all time. Until we get really strong sell flows below comp lows, Nah, I'm in it to buy it. Maybe if I feel like losing some money. But later, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you when I see you.